Good morning. It's 9 a.m. Monday, February 13, 2023. This is the Muscatine County Board of Supervisors. I'd like to call the meeting to order. First is review the agenda.
Move to approve as presented.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Next up is items with Muscatine County Historic Preservation Commissioner, Lynn Pruitt. Morning, Lynn.
Morning.
The first item is review and possible action to accept the Muscatine County Historic Preservation Commission's 2022 work plan with accomplishments and the 2023 work plan. Can you give us a highlight on that?
Yeah, I'll be brief because we were here a couple weeks ago and presented quite a bit of information. So on the screen we have the slide here showing some of the work we've been doing this past year. And then I'll get into some details. These are all requirements to maintain our CLG status. So we had nine members last year, and they all were actively involved. You guys have approved us to go to 11 members, and we have, with that, filling in those two plus a couple others that had resigned, we have 4 new members that we're assimilating into our group right now. We have good geographic diversity across the county now. Commission meetings, we met 10 times last year. We had a quorum on all of those but one. We had several subcommittee meetings. Our leadership met with some of the other organizations that do historic preservation in the county. And then we're starting to work real closely with the Muscatine City Historic Preservation Commission. Local collaboration, in addition to the city, we've worked with West Liberty, Wilton, Durant, and with the National Pearl Button Museum here in Muscatine. We're working on the layer of the magic map to show historic facilities there. That work's been going on primarily for the country schools and churches. We will be adding other items for that and hope to get that made public here shortly. We're planning a historic preservation month presentation in May with the city, so we'd be looking for that. I think it's May the 20th. Training, we attended, we had representatives at the summit, the Iowa Summit in Mason City this year, and presentations there. Also the Iowa Country Schools Conference in Cedar Falls. From information received at those conferences, we shared with other members, and then in 2025, we're slated to host the Iowa Historic Preservation Summit here in Muscatine. Public awareness, we have Iowa's 175th anniversary was this last year, and so to commemorate that, they made available some historic signs. We applied for those. 2 of those we received. One of them's out at the Fairport Fish Hatchery. The other one will go over by the old jail. We'll get that installed this spring. There'll be educational signage up out the fish hatchery to talk about the history of the pearl button industry, and that will come up this spring as well. The signs are on order right now. The mural that you've probably seen on Hauser Street, they got expanded a little bit this past year. And then our books that we have sold, 148 of those out in the community, and used the proceeds for additional signage. New and ongoing projects that we have. This is a list of the county jail. We're still working to get that done. I'll give you a little more information in a moment. The Country Schools and Churches Project, the West Liberty Fairgrounds, Nichols Historic Homes and Churches, Wilton and West Liberty Historic Neighborhoods, Fairport Fish Hatchery, and the new one, which is the County Historic Transportation Survey. So a little detail on each of these. At the jail, we finished this past year the design for the first phase of that project, and that would be the back portion, and it would be to convert that into a historic meeting place that we could have, and then with some displays there, and then eventually set up a museum in the front portion of that. We've raised some money, and we're getting ready to go to corporate fundraising this year. For the country schools and churches, we've got some 100 signs up in the county to depict where these were located or where they got moved to. We delayed on going into the city limits of Wilton and West Liberty because of possible intrusion. So we've decided to go for smaller signs, 12 by 18 rather than 24 by 24. And we've got permission in West Liberty. We think we'll get it in Wilton to get those put up. I mentioned the magic map. We're still working on that, and the books that we've sold. With the fairgrounds, last year we finished the engineering work for structural improvements at the amphitheater, and then the fairgrounds is working to get that implemented. Nichols, we are in the process of nominating that first house as you come in from Muscatine on the right side to the National Register. That's been submitted in draft. We're waiting on the state to review and hopefully finalize that. Last year we got the St. Mary's Catholic Church successfully nominated to the National Register. The historic neighborhoods, we did a field services survey of those neighborhoods in Wilton, West Liberty, and they came up with 3 each that would be possible. Now the next step is to do a more intensive level survey at each of these. Wilton is planning to, they have a CLG there as well, Certified Local Government, and they'll be applying for an HRDP grant this year to get theirs started, and we're planning to wait 1 year to do West Liberty. Fairport Fish Hatchery, the whole area has been nominated for the National Register Historic as a district, and it has been submitted now, and we're waiting on the state to review and approve that. The Friends group out there has done a lot of work. They received a grant for $47,000. They got in-kind services worth about the same amount, and this money is being used for signage and other things. The signage will go up this spring. We got the post in the ground last fall, and then there's a footbridge. Had to replace a existing footbridge, and that is in the works. This main steel structure is in place, and the rest of it is being finished here shortly. Fundraising is continuing. We're trying to build a memorial pavilion out there, and that is in the works. We have a contract that is being let by the DNR to put the concrete down for the base this spring. The design's done on that, and you'll probably see some concrete there in the next month or so. Then we're still raising money to get the walls and the roof up. So. The historic transportation study, we received a grant, $21,000 from the state, and that'll be used for a survey of various transportation facilities, such as where were the first railroads, where were the bridges, all the development of roads and highways, ferry crossings, stagecoach routes, barges, steamboats, all the things that help develop the county. We're trying to get a handle on all of those. Eventually there'll be some signage we anticipate in that regard. There'll be some look at buildings, the depots, refueling, rest stops, and all of those kind of things. We'll have hopefully on the agenda today the approval of that grant. So future things that are still out there that we'll be looking at either this year or next year. Some of the towns that were here at one time and have declined or are totally gone, to document those. County meetings places such as Grange Halls, we'll try to find out where those were. And the fruit and vegetable industry, that's one we have high on the docket for this year, to find out how that all got started, primarily on Muscatine Island. Excuse me. The early lumber and woodworking industries in the city and area, in the county. The diversity that helped to get this county settled. And then we'll be working with the city on Mulberry Avenue, providing them some person power for that work. So we want to thank you for all your support, and that's our annual report that will be going in for the state. We need your approval of this before we can submit it.
I'll move the approval.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
You guys have done a great job and been a very active group. We appreciate that.
Thank you very much.
Next is presentation and possible action authorizing the chair to sign the Iowa Certified Local Government 2022 Annual Report.
There is a one-page document that needs to be signed to go along with this annual plan, so that's what this is.
Okay.
I'll second it.
Motion by Danny, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. And the next is discussion of possible action authorizing the chair to execute a certified local government grant contract for a $35,000 grant, $21,000 grant award with $3,650 cash and $10,350 in-kind match requirements between the State Historic Preservation Office, SHPO, and Muscatine County on behalf of the Muscatine County Historic Preservation Commission for a survey of transportation development in Muscatine County project.
This is one I talked about, and it's the main project that we'll be starting on this year. Appreciate your approval of this.
Is this grant money from us or is it from the state or?
The state is providing $21,000. We provide $10,350 in sweat equity from our group, and then we're asking for a cash match of $3,650.
The cash match from us?
Yes.
That comes
It'll
through
come out of our
would've come our
fund.
budgeted funds.
We have a
It's already
fund.
been in there, the budget file.
Yeah, this
Yeah.
isn't new money.
Yep, this is part of the budget we would have reviewed, and then the in-kind is our donation.
And on the state grant, we're not seeing anything like the requirements that it was asking for in that one we went over last week.
Well,
No,
it's a different, you're looking at like the compliance stuff that the SHPO office does, this group, and I think probably, this commission's activity level has helped us greatly with the state historic office as well, cause they know we have a lot of active projects out here, so.
Okay.
Did I have a motion?
I'll move.
I'll second.
And a motion by Nathan, second by Jeff. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Anything other, Lynn?
No, thank you very much. We look
Thank you so
forward to
much.
continue to work with you.
Nice presentation, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is items with County Engineer Brian Horowski. First is discussion and possible action to approve Iowa DOT agreement number 5-23-HBP-S-004 for utilization of federal bridge funds for a bridge project on Trolley Avenue over Sweetland Creek.
Good morning. So yeah, that's it's an agreement to use federal funds. This is the first. We haven't had one of these in a while. This is the first of going back to non-swap funds. So we'll be back to doing these again. So
Okay.
Do we have to set up any kind of new policies or procurement procedures or anything like that?
No.
Okay, I'll move the approval.
Second.
I got a motion by Jeff, second by Nathan. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Project design update.
Yes, just want to give a quick update, what our office is working on. Working on quite a few projects. The G28, so out west of State 70, that PCC reconstruction project. We got the main line mostly designed. Right now we're working on designing the tie-ins at the ends. And we're also working on getting utilities surveyed in. Our Moscow Road, that is a PCC overlay. That's a pretty big project. Right now, it's sitting with the main line mostly designed, and we're really focusing on working on the driveways and the drainage structures. A lot of the driveways out there currently are steep, and with this project, typically they become steeper. So a lot of them are requiring some additional attention to attempt to decrease how steep they are. And then also a lot of the drainage structures. Before we do any type of overlay, we like to go through, check out all the drainage structures, make sure they look good. We'd really hate to pave over a bad pipe culvert and then be right back there a couple years later ripping it out. So we like
That's a pretty busy project with that road running just basically under that toe of that bluff, isn't it?
Yes, there's a
Yeah.
lot going. There's a lot going on.
There's a lot going on there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot to keep your eye on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And one thing that you don't quite notice until you really look at those driveways is that the road's higher than everything else. Yes, the bluff's higher, but man, all the entrances currently they all go down.
Yeah.
And they're only going to get steeper, so that's why
Yeah, it's a busy place.
this sure is. Then also our reconstruction on Stewart Road, that's in the early stages of design. We got the control points, so the preliminary surveying, we got that complete. And in the upcoming weeks, we hope to complete the survey out there.
Brian, has anybody talked to you about, we're getting ready to do that sewer and water extension to Deep Lakes, and they were talking about going down Pettibone, but I think we'd like to contemplate, would it complicate your world to look at putting that together with that project to go down Stewart? And we've got other areas there that we could serve, and I don't know if you've reached out or anybody from the city's talked to you about their plans.
Are you talking about the water main?
Water main and sewer
Right.
that we're going to that campground with, and they were talking about, the original engineer's estimate thought it would be less expensive to go down Pettibone. And I'm like, I'm not sure they've driven down Pettibone, or they're just looking at a map, because I would think that it would be much more expensive to go down Pettibone, just how close some of those pits are to the shoulder
A lot of railroad crossings.
and a lot of
too.
railroad crossing.
Somebody brought that up to me last week. I forget who it was, but they said they was also considering maybe a deep well because it was significantly cheaper than running water down. But I think that was somebody with Power and Water. We was on some
Yeah.
call last week, but I don't know what that would do for sewer unless you put septics. And
But don't we also in that ditch, don't you have that trail, the Deep Lakes that was done? So there's a lot of complicating factors in this road, I think.
Yes, and so yeah, I haven't had too much correspondence. I know Keith and Santos did previously, but I haven't had too much correspondence with anyone. It would definitely complicate our project, just because room's tight out there for both roads. I mean, I don't know the exact profile of the road cross section, but I know at the east side of Stewart is probably a no-go because of that the sand pit there. So yeah, you're most likely looking at something on the west side.
And you certainly wouldn't
attempting
want
to
to be
not-
under the road, you'd be in a right of way
Yes.
for sure. I mean, the city's typically not putting any structure under the
And
road.
I don't know if I don't know where their design process is at. I don't know if they're thinking on our right of way or acquiring their
I'm
own.
kind of a little bit confused as to who's leading this charge. You're gonna got a conservation project working with I think, what's the consulting firm they use?
Bolton, Maine.
Bolton Mink, maybe, Bolton Mink, and then you got MPW, and you got the city wastewater treatment plant, and it just seems to me, and if we're gonna be down there messing, it seems to me that we probably need to figure out how to communicate what what everybody's doing, so we don't wind up tearing everything up. Cause you're probably, what, a year out still? We're probably next
Yeah.
construction season? Okay.
Yep.
Well, you know, there's only one river crossing if you go down, Stewart Road, and it's really busy down Pettibone there, with one side of the road along that pit and so on. It seems to me that there's expansion for utilization of that sewer and water further down past, at the point of Deep Lakes and going farther to the south there. So I think it's really something that really needs to have a good look. I just, in my mind, I think it's the best avenue, but I certainly don't have all the particulars in my head on it. But as you think about it, it just seems like the room for expansion of the line and that makes sense going down Stewart Road to be able to drop off and service Deep Lakes and continue on down as the need arises.
Well, and we saw some stuff with some of this PFAS and water stuff we're seeing, and I know that trailer court that's right in that proximity has been one that's tested with some of that. So I just think it's probably a wise decision to step back and take a really good hard look at this project and make sure that we're in there tearing stuff up. Let's get everything done and be done. We don't wanna be the typical complaint I hear from taxpayers is, well, you just came in here 2 years ago and did a brand new road, now you're gonna come in here and do this, and we'd look pretty foolish if we know we're all working, gonna do something down there, we don't do it together and think about it.
I think that that gentleman that told me about that, worked for Power and Water. His name was Ricky Tees, I believe.
Ricky's he's the engineer.
And, I was at a Thursday get-together
Yeah.
last Thursday, and he had mentioned they had a recent meeting in regards to how they're coming together on what they may do. I don't know if you're aware of that.
Is he working with the city, or is he, do you know?
I don't know who was all there. Santos was there, so I don't know why he was there, or I don't know who's all getting involved in it, but there's people involved that I just found out about on Thursday.
Yeah, and I know it's been out there and about in a while so I don't know how we get our arms around this.
Well, you know, from the conversation with Bolton Mink and so on and so forth on that issue on the conservation side of it, you know, you look at having your own well down there, well, then that brings up another can of worms of all your well testing and everything that has to be done, and I think the smart money is having city water provided.
Well, the bottom line is, if we go down there, I mean, Eric, you correct me if I'm wrong, but if we got 56 camp spots, that's a public water supply. And then, so now all of a sudden, the county's getting in the business of running a public water supply. I think
No.
that's a long-term thing we wanna think about. MPW does that today, and it might be a few dollars up front, but I don't think, I'd rather pay a little upfront cost than have a long-term liability for the county that we'd be
sure.
having to fund for how many years coming forward.
No, I think the
We don't have staff to do that.
the smart money is running city water to this total situation that's gonna be down there.
So I'm not really sure how we get the right people together. Sounds like Ricky Teed. I wonder if we should reach out to, maybe, Brian, do you have any kind of consistent communications with like Ryan Streck or, Butler? Is it? Brian Butler? And then who is the city? Is it John Cook? Is he the guy that would lead the initiative on extension of the sanitary sewer?
Probably him, the city engineer, Brian Steinman.
And Steinman, do you think Steinman Public Works gets involved with that, or is it all through?
The city sewer.
Maybe we should try to get something with it just seems to me that we got three groups all working in the same area. We need to be singing out of the same hymnal, so to speak.
Our biggest concern is going to be the location of it.
Yeah.
You know, and then after that, you know, we don't necessarily design sewers and water mains, so
No, we wouldn't.
they're going
want
to kind
you
of
in
tell
that.
us, you know, where they need to be or where they would like to be.
Well, and crossings, because you're gonna have to cross your construction project, and how do you wanna do that, and how do you backfill and all that, so we don't have long-term pavement issues, and all that's very important, so. All right, so it sounds like, I don't know, is Kurt leading the charge on Bolton Mink, or?
I think so.
Yeah.
I think maybe it's an opportunity that we should try to get maybe Brian, maybe you and Brian Steinman, and then we could reach out and see if we can get, I think Ryan Streck is the director of distribution, but I don't know if he does everything at MPW. Maybe I can call Ryan Streck and see if we can figure out who's on first here. So we all have a conversation about this and make sure when we move forward, it's together, not
I think that's a
individual.
good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll make a call, I'll get back with you, Brian, and,
Okay.
I'll talk to maybe Kurt too.
Okay. All right.
That's really all I had for design update.
Okay. Anything other?
Yes. Last week we were pretty pleased to get possession of a new motor grader. It was one of two. They were ordered in November of 2021. So we're looking at like 15 months to get that piece of equipment. And then the other one that was ordered at the same time, we're being told hopefully in a month or two we'll get that one. So.
So here it is, by 23, in 23, we'll have our 21 orders.
Yes. Luckily, we did get a 23 model. So that's one of the things that
Yeah,
we were a little concerned about with ordering them that long ago and them taking that long to show up is what year were we going to get?
What plant do they build those motor graders at? I'm just curious. You know?
I do not know.
I don't know
I don't know
either.
where this one came from.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to give an update on that. And the machine we traded in, it was really pushing right up against those hours, the max hours of our extended warranties. So I mean, it was sitting at like 7,400 hours, and you know our warranties are up at 7,500. So
Very good.
it came at a good time.
All right.
That's all I had.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is discussion and possible action to approve the minutes of the February 6, 2023 regular meeting.
move to approve.
Second.
Motion by Jeff, second by Kurt. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Correspondence. Jeff, you got anything?
Well, I think we all got a letter today from the Secretary of Roads crew. Also, I had a couple of calls this week, or conversations. One was from Sue Johansson, asking about, apparently Johnson County, through some of their ARPA money, has elected to compensate daycare providers an additional $2 an hour to boost wages in Johnson County. So I'm not sure exactly how they're doing that or what they're doing. And she was asking if something like that was available in Muscatine County. I've pointed her to Aligned Impact Muscatine. I don't know if you guys recall that. Santos had been working with them. I had attended one meeting. This is a group that is trying to deal with childcare issues in the area, you know, providing childcare, good quality childcare, doing, you know, kind of a multifaceted attack. And I believe that the group leading this, is grant funded by the governor. So the governor has set aside some funds for some, and I don't remember the name of the group that's leading that charge. But I'll kind of keep an eye on it. And I sent Sue to that and said, really, we don't have ARPA funds and we don't have any intention of doing a one-time funding for wages for day. That doesn't solve the long-term problem, so. And then the other thing is I also got a call from a Muscatine resident concerning the swimming pool in Wilton. So, and I'm totally unaware of what's going on up there. I know that they had some issues with the pool, and they were looking at, do they fix, rebuild, and it sounds like there's been funding. And so they were asking me about, said there's some grant funds potentially available, and they needed grant money, they don't have money to write the grant to get, and needed like 40,000, and somebody thought the county had funds, and I'm like, well, we don't have any funds I'm aware of, but I kinda sent them said, maybe you should talk to the community foundation too, cause we do support a grant writer position there, so if you need help writing a grant, maybe they would be, but I don't know much about that, and I'll try to follow up with, I think Ted Maroff was given the name as maybe the guy leading some of that, or talking about it. So apparently that the schools have backed out of the replacement of that facility, or the financial support of that facility or something, I don't know. I know there've been talk for a couple of years, you guys, I don't know, Kurt, Danny, you may not. A couple of years ago, there was the city of Wilton was attempting to get the YMCA in Muscatine to help with programming, to help them. The Muscatine Y wasn't really, they were in the middle of an expansion, they didn't really wanna get involved. So then I think, had inked a deal with Scott County Y, and they were gonna do that, which was a little disappointing to me. But now I think that has fallen through, so I don't, they've been trying to do some kind of a recreation facility in Wilton and work on their facilities, and they're having challenges, so. Me personally, I'm a pretty big supporter of venues like this for kids and youth, to keep them off streets and in a productive place where you can keep an eye on them and wear them out a little bit. Keep that youth energy burned up. But that's about all I know. So I had that conversation, and I'll try to follow up a little bit, maybe get with Ted. I don't know, Kurt, if you've heard anything in the economic development, if they've talked about that project or anything,
No.
Becky, or? Okay. That was it for me.
Okay, Nathan?
So, yeah, I also got the letter from the secondary roads, had some correspondence back and forth regarding the folks who came and visited last week from the American Legion. I understand they sat down with, the Veterans Commission Director and, had some discussions, and I think that's moving forward. Checking one more thing here. Also got some information, had some discussions with some folks about where that proposed Canadian Pacific merger is, and where that is going forward. That's it.
Very good. I had the secondary roads email as well. That's about all I had. Danny?
So, yeah, that's, on that secondary road thing, the union reps from the different areas, from the jail, the deputies, and the secondary roads, they asked me to meet with them last week, so I met with them. We had lunch or dinner out across town at one of the restaurants, and, these things are concerning to me on getting and keeping and retaining good employees, and everybody, I keep continuing to hear that all these different groups are significantly lower on wages than surrounding counties, and even the ones similar, and they shared a lot of data with me on this, and there was, in regards to the jailers, they had mentioned one guy that had left to go somewhere else that had significant years of experience, and they state that all of the jailers with significant time are kind of in the job search, and some of the deputies too. And so I think it's something, one of the things they're considering, I didn't know this letter was coming, but one of the things they was considering is all the groups coming to the board and trying to open up negotiations a year early, because they want to get caught up. I guess apparently everybody has 2.5% raise the last couple of years, and that seems to be a lot of complaints with these different groups. So to me, it's important. I know we got a fine balancing act between how much we pay and because it affects our tax dollars, but I like to get and keep and have it appealing to bring in new employees to our county. So I think it's something we gotta have a conversation on. Then a next issue I had is, not an issue, I had a contractor in town call me. Apparently a couple years ago, they worked with the city down on Dick Drake, and I know this is in the city, so I don't know if we have to reach out to somebody there, I haven't. But the trains continue to block them tracks at Dick Drake, and when the concrete trucks are leaving, especially in the wintertime, with the concrete on it with calcium chloride, they only have so much time, and if they, once that cement truck is loaded and it's got calcium chloride on it, that responsibility is given over to the contractor. I don't know if there's anything can even be done, but apparently the city had talked to somebody a few years ago on this, and they'd like us to bring it up again. Now, maybe this individual should have reached out to the city, because I think it's on city property, not ours, and I don't know what they can do anyway.
Yeah, well, there was a number of months ago, I know the past mayor had done some effort to work with the railroad to try to not block those intersections. And I think there was some work going on, but that is definitely within the city and it's all in their jurisdiction. So we don't really have much, but that's an interesting problem, and could be a gating issue, so, never thought about that.
I don't know if I should reach out, or we should, I don't know if we should reach out to the mayor or city council. I don't know if or tell that individual he should.
You might reach out to, Jeff Osborne was doing more with that. He'd posted a few things, and they were looking at potential trying to get some grant funding for an overpass there. And a lot of stuff, and that might be a place to see what's going on, if anything.
Well, it sounds like this merger's getting closer as opposed to farther away.
Yeah, if you bump up to how many trains a day they were talking about.
But when you said an overpass, I mean, that's all part of
That was the
the
merger
works,
discussion, right?
you
That
know?
was part of that
That's
merger
all part of,
discussion.
that's all
was
part of it.
overpass.
So, what I've read about the merger, it sounds more positive that it's going to happen than it ever has.
Oh, it's
I
gonna
believe
happen.
so too.
You're not gonna stop it.
Yeah.
I don't think you can stop it. It's getting held up for environmental reasons right now, but it's gonna happen.
Well, the environmental report, didn't we just get a note last week that came through, it's now published, and I think I don't think there's anything that's gonna stop it in the environmental report.
My point being is they're gonna have an overpass, if that comes to be anyway, as I understood.
I don't know if that was negotiated or
Well-
not, we weren't part of those.
No, we weren't part of it, but
So on that, if that money that the city got, I think it was around 3 million. Now that overpass, I've heard figures anywhere from 10 to 25 million. So they'll have to apply for some additional grants. First of all, the city has to allocate that to go to the overpass, which most likely they will. But then they have to apply for some additional state or federal grants to try to get to whatever that figure is.
Is that something RISE grants could cover, Brian, do you think?
And, if they get to that point, I suppose that's probably a 5-year project to even get going and make happen, maybe longer.
Yeah. The calcium chloride will kick the concrete long before.
There'd be a lot of,
before.
yeah, there'd be a lot of setup.
That'd be a lot of little hard.
There'd be a lot of setup trucks before they get to
Yeah.
overpassing.
are you telling me the concrete will dry before then, Jeff?
Yeah, I think so. Maybe
At
they'll
least
get
it
a
won't
good,
have part of all the concrete for the
they'll
overpass.
get a good start on the riprap, maybe.
All right, anything else, Danny?
No,
That's-
one more thing. I
Okay.
did have a few calls from a few of those veterans after they got over to the Legion, after they got that letter. Of course, they wasn't happy, but they're gonna meet with their membership, and it sounds like Jody and Nathan's sounds like they're gonna be at the next meeting, so hopefully we're going in the right direction just to get some resolution to put this behind us.
Okay. Kurt?
Same letter from the engineer. I also had 2 calls about some solar rules issues, discussed with a couple voters. Also had one on zoning, which I forwarded on to Eric, and he handled that fine. And So that was pretty much everything I had.
Okay. Any committee reports, Jeff?
Yes, on the 8th, I had the Eastern Iowa Mental Health Region had a budget session, so again, you know, I'm not sure why I had to drive to Davenport for it, but you know, so they had the dilemma is they have a $16.8 million budget and you know, they had a dilemma where they didn't think they could submit the document to the state and were wanting to cut a couple million off our expected spend, and it was all based on their estimated fund balance 2 years out, and I was like, well, change your fund balance estimate. Right? It solves the problem, so. That's what we did.
There you go.
Seemed pretty simple to me. You don't know, I mean, you can justify anything, right? The fund balance he had was based on a lower spend, and we had the good news, I think, good news, bad news, I don't know how you review it. We've been running about 50% of budget in our mental health expenditures since COVID. You know, it really, people just have not been reaching out for help, and you've seen, you know, we've had a lot of suicides, we've had a lot of issues. But we are finally, I think, almost fully staffed in all of our crisis positions. So our expenditures are coming up quite rapidly. So the last couple of months we're looking to be more in the 70 to 75% range, which we would expect. We've traditionally spent around 80% of budget, so that's what when we adjusted that estimated fund balance, we looked at more recent funds and said, no, you could really say, we're gonna come in more at 75, so we're not gonna have the fund balance, we're gonna have to be a little bit different than what we were projecting, so.
Okay.
That was it.
All right. Nathan, any committees?
Yeah, I will also add to Jeff's, I've seen a lot more advertising and marketing for the services offered by the region, so that's just in various places around the community. I think that's excellent. One thing I forgot to add, correspondence, I met with the mayor of West Liberty on Thursday, just to kind of build relationships and chit chat about, you know, how we can benefit one another, so that was a good meeting. On Tuesday, I guess 7th, we had the General Housing Commission meeting, and Danny and I think we're both, it was just a Zoom meeting. And Danny, I think you probably remember better than I do, we were gonna talk with Jeff about something. We were gonna check in with him about it was the revolving loan fund, was that it?
Yes.
So, they were under the impression, I was under the impression that the revolving loan fund is like $25,000, generally speaking. But that might be the Iowa, Illinois one. They were thinking that some funds need to be released for, or could be released for housing development from potentially that or a different revolving loan fund, and they thought you were the one that knew most about that.
Yeah, they said you had been working on it or
That's-
something.
does that ring a
I
bell?
didn't have, we
We-
didn't have any knowledge of it.
So we had, so there's, you know, that's part of some of the group get a little conflated, so I think if you looked at the original ARPA stuff we did, the board had allocated potential to the community foundation, for that, right?
For the housing
There was a
study.
housing one that
Right.
we did, so in addition to that, this board has had, you know, it started at $125,000, we used some of the dollars to match for, Mercer Muscatine RLF to help fund that process. So we've got, you remember 4 or 5 years ago when the West Liberty Economic Development Building was in shambles, this board loaned them $75,000 out of this money that originally came from the state of Iowa as a
CDBG.
CDBG, like, affordable housing grant.
No, actually, I think it was originally for a sanitary sewer project or something. We originally got the money, and then it was a no interest loan. When we got the money back from that loan, we reached out to the state and they said, you can keep the money. And then when we tried to get definition about what we could use it for, we never really got that resolved.
So this, since I've been on this board, this $100 and some thousand has been languishing. It's been over 12 years, 14 years. So at one point, we talked about you know, cause I think we were under the impression it somehow had to do with affordable housing, and when they talked about establishing, we said, well, maybe we should just take those funds and park them in the community foundation for revolving loan fund for affordable housing or housing, you know, bridge money. Now, I think when I talked with Nancy and Kayla about that here a month or so ago, and I communicated this to Ron at the community foundation. I think the staff checked out with the state auditor's office, and the state auditor's office said, no, you can't do that. You cannot send those funds over there. Well, if that's the case, you know, what can we do with them? And, you know, maybe we just send them back to the state, cause they've been sitting here. If we can't do anything with them, we'll give them back to them, say you do something with them. So maybe they go back to EDA and EDA will grant them back. I don't know.
We still have 2 years.
We have 2 years left on payment, so we have about 48,000 sitting there, if I remember.
Yeah.
48 of the 75, so that's the RLF dollars.
Those are the funds that are.
That's what
Yeah.
we're talking about.
But the state auditor said in no uncertain terms, we could not give them to the community. Well, if we give them to the community foundation for revolving loan, or for revolving housing loans of any sort, we'll be in trouble.
That's not what we want.
No.
Yeah, so my thought is we sit on them, collect them back, and then we can give them back to EDA and let EDA grant them out. It's kind of, they gotta decide what they want with it, cause we have the money we need to
Well,
do
and over the years, that question's been asked a number of times, what can we use the money for? But as things change, those answers just kept changing. So, which is why the money really we have never figured out a permanent use for it, because depends on which state auditor, who's the state auditor at the time, it depends on who's working, at the state grant offices, what kind of answer you get about what you can use it for.
And it may be just simpler for us just to send it back to the state, here, you guys take care of it then. You know, if we have no allowable uses for it, why would we even want it?
Maybe we can
Yeah.
trade it for
Just-
some
I
usable
can do
money.
some research and see if I can find and get us some solid answers on what we can do with it or what the options are to send it back.
Yeah,
I'd love to trade it. Have them give us some usable money. We'll give them this stuff back.
swap, there you reinstating
Our own
swap.
swap.
1 for 1.
Don't call it a comeback.
So that's all I know about that,
Okay.
so I think the answer to them is the state auditor's office slammed the door.
I believe they're on hold. They thought you was working on it, so we'll update them
Yeah.
on what we've done.
Yeah, I'd talked to Ron about it a month or so ago.
Maybe he had forgotten about it. He didn't mention that, I don't believe. But
Well, the answer might be there's nothing we can do, we'll just give it back to the state and they can go ask the state for it.
Yep.
Okay,
That's all I had.
that's all you had? I had no committees, Danny?
So I got invited to that clean energy group Zoom call this week, so I sat in to learn what's going on there a little bit, and I'm not gonna say that they don't have good intentions, but they got some lofty goals and expectations, mostly on power and water. I mean, they really hammered on power and water about everything they do. It was an hour and a half meeting. Go ahead, yeah.
Was it Progress Muscatine or the Clean Energy Muscatine?
It was that clean energy with,
So it was Sue
Brack-
Johansson.
with, with Brackett.
That's
Okay, that's Progress
That's
Muscatine.
Progress?
That's a whole different group,
It's a.
I
yeah.
thought it was a group that you
They're-
attended.
No.
They're all involved.
So there's 2 of them.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah.
So I just listened. I didn't have anything to say, but
What date was that?
that was on Monday.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think they call themselves Progress Muscatine, and I think they're 100% behind pushing MPW
Yeah, they
versus the Clean Energy District, which I think is trying to look county-wide at making sure we're not, when I listened to the Johnson County thing, they were all saying, don't have poison pills in your zoning and all that kind of stuff, which I don't think we have any of that.
there was a couple people on the call from Power and Water, and they continued to defend their stance and let everybody know whether it's a DNR or the EPA, to let them know that they're in compliance and doing everything they can to keep us energy sufficient and affordable and sustainable, and so they did a lot of damage control on the call to say that, you know, we're doing the best we can to provide the best service to Muscatine as we can.
Yeah, cause when I went to the clean energy, Doug White was there, and I think he's the head of the generating plant or power distribution or something, so I think MPW is plugged into these plants,
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Tuesday, with Nathan, I had that housing council we just spoke about. And the big one was Friday afternoon, we had the meeting with Jim Irwin, Mandy Tripp, Nancy, Kayla, and myself to go over that contract, to possibly become the sub-recipient. And everything I learned, it sounds like if we decide in the end to become the sub-recipient, we can still subcontract that out. The legal procurement would be done under the legal lawyer we're currently using. The IT responsibilities would be done, could be done under the IT
They're currently
resource
using-
they're currently using. So even though we'd be the sub-recipient, we'd have to sign this contract and agreement. It sounds like things could pretty much stay the same. Now, we haven't got the contract yet, the official one, and we stopped them at that, saying until we get that, and we would of course want Jim to look it over. And
That was a draft.
that was a draft. So I don't know how many changes will be in the official contract, and our options is to either say no, and I think, it's Clinton County, right?
Yeah, it's,
Clinton County would then look it up, see if they wanna do it, or we could take on the responsibility and subcontract everything out, and now we have it. Or, I mean, if we do that, it is also a possibility, if we chose to, that we could hire an employee to do that. And I'm not saying that's the way to go, but we could take on that responsibility in-house if you wanted to. And again, I'm not saying that's what we need to do. So that's where we're sitting on that, but it all comes down to wait until we get that official contract. Jim sent an email out Friday afternoon after our meeting. Was you on that? Irwin, and he attached the gal from the state, which I can't remember her thing.
Michelle
Miranda.
McNerney from.
Yeah. So asked him to get that to us and told her that we are not making any decision here in Muscatine County till we get the final draft of the contract. We get his Jim's seal of approval that he doesn't have any concerns, and then once we get the feedback from him, we will decide what is the best path forward. They would like this done by the end of the month, but it's been extended. We really have until it sounds like July 1st before we have to make a decision.
How much money is this sub-recipient? I mean, what kind of administrative fees are we talking
It's
about?
10%, correct?
10% of the total?
Yeah, if
10% of their,
Their grant.
yeah.
or
We can get like
service
10
that they get from the grant.
10% you could bill towards a grant for administration fees.
I just worry about, even if you subcontract it, you know, if we're just a pass-through entity, so to speak, it sounds like, what compliance, you know, if you have a failure, if somebody doesn't comply, what responsibility does that bring back onto Muscatine
So-
County as a
That's
sub-recipient?
Nothing I've
So-
heard convinces me that we wanna be any part of this.
that's our primary concern is we can't really, can't get a really straight
So
answer.
we had that conversation, and, you know, it is equal share to all 8 counties in our district, but, and Nancy and I both brought it up because we was concerned that maybe if we do this, there may be some additional liability outside of that 8 counties that may fall directly on us, and I think maybe we can clarify that when we get the contract, but that is a concern.
And,
Jim had
and I'm
indicated-
not convinced that we can contract away our
Yep.
legal compliance issue.
Joint
They,
and several
they
liabilities.
said we can use an outside attorney to review
Still-
contracts. I'm not convinced that resolves Muscatine County of their responsibility.
The thing Jim had also, I saw him on Wednesday, and he had mentioned to me, you know, so this is, you know, this region, the 8 counties, we get, what, $3 million and
3.2.
so this is federal unemployment dollars, is what this is, that's driving all this craziness. And, you know, this is like the third change in this system in the last few years.
That was all
And
discussed.
it's all been just a mess, you know, it's kind of like, we're gonna,
So,
you do this and then figure it out. But there's also a group of counties in Iowa that are succeeding from the union.
well,
Can I
there
say
may be, in the meeting I was on Friday morning, there may be 2 now.
that? Yeah.
And Nancy brought up, which I thought was good because I was thinking the same thing, is the state making this so complicated that they want everything back, and they did recognize that, yeah, they might be happy to see 1 or 2 groups in the whole state. And maybe that's why they're adding to the complexity of it.
I'm wondering if maybe the state shouldn't just take it all, you know, be done with it, because it's, you know, if I just look at, you know, forever the community colleges did it, and they got these administrative dollars. We, you know, as a workforce group, the volunteer, you know, the volunteers that do most of the work on these workforce groups never knew those dollars even existed. And now, how many staff members have we added? 3?
Yeah, there's 3 now.
Now we have 3 full-time staff members doing that for the workforce. And now if Muscatine County or a county has to add, you know, you've added 5 full-time staff members to manage $3.2 million. And, you know, the challenge I have is, you know, that should be going to service. That's for people that are unemployed. It shouldn't be going to, you know, overhead and staff. And, you know, you add all these regions and you know, just say you take, you know, that's 320,000 be 10%, right? So if we take 320, I think the total allocation of those dollars in the state is like 15 million. It's not that much. You know, if you take 10% of that and you lose it immediately to bureaucracy, you know, what's the point?
And you're doubling that, or instituting that
Because the
same
state
bureaucracy
has
in
it,
every
you know,
district.
the state added that, Michelle McNertney in another position, they added a couple of people to deal with this transition, so what the heck are they getting paid for? Why are we having to add another layer of bureaucracy? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Terrible to me.
Well, if we, you know,
I think that's a discussion, maybe maybe you talk with your CEOs, cause it sounds to me like other than Jim and you, there's not a lot of
not yet,
CEOs
but there's a few
participating.
new ones, but there isn't a lot of, engagement.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So I guess the feedback would be to wait till we get the final
Yeah.
contract, and then we make an official decision as the board on what we just, if we wanna get involved in it, or if we wanna say no.
And this is this whole segregation of duty argument, right? It's like, you can't be a fiscal agent, you can't be this, and you can't be that. So you basically take all these, there's like 3 roles in the administration of these systems, and you can't commingle them in any organization, and that's just really driving bureaucracy is all it's doing.
If we decide to say no, the sooner we know that information, the better, because Jim Irwin will, he'll see on his end if that county, if Clinton County will decide to do it.
Well, there,
I'm prepared to make
this
it
is,
easy for Jim Irwin right now.
this is, well, this is the
Well,
challenge in this
that's
whole
what the board
legislation, though. I mean, you say that, Nathan, but, you know, we are automatically a part of that
I
group.
understand, but I don't.
There's
I don't
8
see
counties,
what the good
and,
is.
you know, well, Danny might get elected Clio next month, and then we get it automatically. Because based on the federal legislation, the chief lead elected official, his county has to do all that. So I'd rather select where it goes than have it
Right,
follow,
but
because
Jim's
if it
gonna
jumps
do it,
around,
I'd rather Jim do it.
Well, I don't know that, I certainly got the impression that Clinton County doesn't want to do it. I raised that question on Friday.
It didn't.
Why don't you guys?
I don't
want
think
it?
any county wants to do it. And
Right.
The challenge is, you know, like, you know, I don't know, maybe,
Yeah, Nancy brought that up, which is another good challenging question, and I don't think he's even brought it up to his team to take it on. I think he's pushing it our way to see how we'll handle it. Mostly, he claimed, because we was already the recorder of record or whatever.
employer of record for the
Employer of
staff.
Right.
Well, this goes into the effect that, you know, when you get board members that are doing what they're supposed to be doing on this board, which is, you know, Jim's doing, Danny, you're doing, then all of a sudden you get elected to be the chief, and then all these ancillary duties follow, and, you know, that's a scary area for me, because, you know, you might be you know, maybe Jim's gone next month, and then, or gonna be, you know, voted out, and then they'll, cause you know, Jim will get people ticked once in a while.
I think we're gonna try to keep Jim in that spot.
Yeah, well, you know, but if that doesn't happen, then you know what, then you wind up there, then all of a sudden we get the work anyway, so I don't know, I don't like anything about it personally.
Well, if that's the case, then we could adopt the contract at that time.
Yeah, you can, but I mean, I don't know, it's just a mess.
To me, I think at this time, we wait till we get the official contract. We have Jim take his time looking it over and get his feedback, and then we make a decision.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not too inclined to like take it personally, but,
Yeah, I mean, let's look at it.
yeah.
Let's see what it says.
That's all I got, Scott.
Okay. Kurt, you have any committees?
Yeah, on Tuesday, the 7th, I met with Ken Brooks and Jerry Melick with the We Lead and kind of got indoctrinated in what they're doing, introduced myself. And then on Friday, the 10th, they had their quarterly meeting, We Lead did, and I attended that.
Okay. Very good. Items with the administration office. Nancy, you got anything?
I don't think that we do.
Okay. Next is receive information from county employees. Do I have any county employees that wish to address the board at this time? Morning, Jim.
Morning, thank you. You saw the email I sent out, at least to some of you, relative to Drainage District 13 and repairs to the pump down there. So I apologize for you two, but I didn't have easy access to your email addresses Saturday when I sent that out, so I apologize and rectify that. I've also given some further consideration to the fine collection office. I reported to you a week or two ago relative to my thoughts there. At this juncture, my thought is to bring Angela, who's the only employee left over there, back over to the main office. We will utilize the existing desk and facilities that are there on an interim basis. And I'm not going to look at hiring a fine collection coordinator. What I'll do then is work with Nancy to meld those two jobs together, the coordinator and the assistant, so that we have a singular job description, and then we'd have to discuss what we do with Angela's pay, since she's obviously doing more than the assistant was and potentially a little less than what the coordinator was. Then instead, I would look at, in terms of hiring somebody else, hiring another legal secretary to deal with the administrative load, you know, on the office as it is, and then supplement that person into fine collection versus putting two people in fine collection and supplementing into the general office, because I think that'll be more efficient and a better approach, and saves us utilizing any downtime that might be in the fine collection office for the benefit of the office, and avoid having to look at hiring anybody else. So that's my, to do that then I would, we'd have to put out a request for a job description and put out a feeler to see what we get in terms of folks that would apply and conduct interviews. In the meantime, I am checking on furniture to get a pair of cubicles that would match the two that we just bought when we did the office renovation, to put them on the other end, keep everybody on the main floor, and keep things status quo. So that's kind of where I'm at as of this morning. Wanted to tell you that, so if there were any questions or concerns, we could have an opportunity to discuss.
You think you have ample space for 2 additional cubicles?
Well, there's 2 on the other end, yeah.
Yeah, so you'd be fine.
I'm not worried. I'd rather do that than put somebody in the basement. You know, I think it's better. And then I wanna make sure that if we do this, I anticipate the clerk's office may absorb that office for their operations, which I don't have a particular problem with. I just wanna make sure that we keep that room up on 2nd floor in case there's any need in the future to do anything different with the office, because this effort would put us basically, there's just no more room over there. So any other expansion or any other personnel would have to be dealt with outside the office, or further renovations to the office be made, which would not be my intent or my choice if it's it's me making the decision.
Who's the current clerk? It's not Jeff Tolinaire anymore.
Heidi McDonough.
Heidi is, okay. I know Heidi.
And so they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. They've got 8 people in that office in the corner. And then they've got files in the back of the fine collection office that you access through the fine collection office. They have a little break room and a file storage back there. So for them, it might make sense to utilize that space and spread out a little bit more than they currently are. But like that's her, that's their decision, not mine. I just wanted to let you know that I think that space, if we do that, there may come a request to use that space.
Okay. Very
Okay?
good. All right,
Thank you.
thanks, Jim. Next is received comments from the public. Do I have anyone from the public that would wish to address the board at this time? Seeing no one come forward, it is 10:06, and we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.